Wow. It's a hard film to do a Q&A for, because it's very intimate, it's very personal, and it's very vulnerable. My question for you is, you have these people sharing their hearts and fears and hopes and disappointments and right on the screen with you. And when it came to editing and even showing the film, what was the process like for having all these people, see it? Did you bring them into the edit? Was it more like an unveiling at the end? We'll start with that.
Unveiling sounds from a whole other genre of... I think it was really convenient to be on the other side of the world from everybody, so I didn't have to show anybody anything until I had to. So nobody was in my process in that sense. It would have helped maybe sometimes to feel like I could get glimpses of permission, because it was always a question. Do I? So it was as much an act of censorship as it was of exposing, because I was, having to think for everybody, what would they feel, and, well, is it okay, speaking of unveiling, will we come out alive on the other side of it, will I come out alive? I think more than anything, from the beginning of the film, I had a fantasy that I wouldn't have to be in it. Which probably most people have when they make personal films. Good luck with that one. Yeah. And I think when I finally stepped up, understanding that maybe for other reasons I needed to be in the film, but when I finally stepped up, the motivation was that I could, again, for lack of a better way of putting it, I would cover my ass by exposing myself as much, if not more, than anybody else. So then there would be some mutuality in that, and I felt like I owed it to people to offer myself up, to match it somehow.
Were there ever situations, for example, the interview with Maria, where she thinks she's there to talk about flamenco, and you get to this whole other background story? Were there ever situations where you had to step away and then come back?
Maria didn't really think we were there to talk about flamenco.
Okay, so
we didn't talk about what we were going to talk about, and she assumed I didn't know. But she talked about it really fast, and she wanted to talk about it. And as soon as I told her, as soon as I was, very there with her and very wanting, and let her know that I knew, and let her know that Martin knew, and let her know that we all knew, and she was blown away by the fact that, she's the one woman that he didn't marry. She's the one woman who didn't have his child, and so she's the odd woman out. And I think assumed that we were all a gang, and she's out, she's the outcast. And hearing just that it's information and something that we carry and contain, maybe not all of us equally. I'm sort of the obsessive one in the family, the only one who would have gone and done this. It took something off of her, for sure. And she kept going back to the subject. We would talk about other things. She kept going back to it. So. Yeah.
I mean, that's almost a very strong theme in the film, is what you carry. You think you've packed the painting away. You think it's wrapped up and it's packed away, but you still have it with you. And then when your father at the very end is talking about how 50 years later, he's like, of course I care, totally. And I mean, this is a man who says the past is the past and disappearance is gone. So it really is a film about what you carry. And I was curious, for you, having gone through this whole process, by the end of it, how did you feel? Did you feel it's done, or did you feel it's just deeper than it ever was before? How did your relationship change with your father and even with your mother after this film was finished?
I think it's really important to make a distinction between life and a movie, even if your movie is about your life. And at some point, you also understand, if you're going to make a good movie, you're making a movie, and it's not going to solve, and as good as that movie might be, it's not going to solve your life. So if you go to Sundance with your movie, it doesn't mean your life is that much more solved, like you went to like extra good therapy or something. It doesn't correspond. So
take note, filmmakers.
There's something that happened. I mean, the making of the movie was a wonderful excuse to have a very close and consistent relationship. And as soon as the movie was gone, it was kind of scary, or done, meaning it was kind of scary. Well, that, now what? And given that the end product wasn't necessarily what I thought I would make or he thought I would make, then it was that much scarier. It was like, well, you know, now what's going to happen to those 10 years? So David's had an interesting process with the whole thing. I'll kind of give you the summary version. I gave him the film a little over a year ago, and he sat on it for about 2 months. And then he saw it, and then he called me, and the next day he said, I saw your movie. I have a serious problem with it. And and he noted something about 3 words in the voiceover, which are no longer there. It doesn't matter what they are. You know, I have a major problem with those. And I said, well, you know, it's a detail. We can fix that. But he, you know, he had found his little thing that he could, you know, reject it with. So I hung up the phone, and I mean, I was out in the world, whatever. I ran home, and I opened the Word document of the voiceover, and I did a word count. And there was like 1,800 and something words, and I was like, you know, that motherfucker, you know, 3 out of it. What happened to the other 1,800 words? You know, didn't he hear them? Or so then we went into silence for about 2 months. And then I got a text message, which is his new medium. And it said, did I hear Sundance? And I said, you heard Sundance. And he said, you know, and I said, do you want to come? Because this is our chance to nail Redford for the role of Jones in the fiction version. And he said, you know, it's really good news. I'm really proud of you, and I'm really happy for you. It's just I didn't realize there was a nonfiction version. I said, okay, David's coming back. He's working his way, you know, that's his way of, and I was hugely relieved. And then every few months I get a text message that says, I saw the movie again. It's a good movie, you know, and it kind of, he's building from there. So
did he come to the screening?
Well, we premiered in Spain last week in Seville, and he was at the screening, and Clara and Nandi and Pablo, and it was, because I already done the Berkeley, and now we just did the Spain. So, and I think we're all hugely relieved because it's out. We had that ceremony, and now maybe we can start doing life again and figure out what life is, you know. So my mom loves the movie. Yeah, she was sort of the opposite. My father and I had this incredible love affair of 10 years, and then the movie was done. It was like, ugh. And my mother was just freaked out for 10 years, you know. I don't know how many of you have made personal films, but I don't know how many of you have mothers who say, well, you should make a movie about, why don't you make a movie about me?
How many people have moms like that? Show of hands.
So she was awful for 10 years, and now it's a lot better. So, you know, I think, she discovered that I sort of sided with her, or I didn't turn her into the monster she thought I would, or whatever. So she's, aside from the poster scene, which she feels silly about. I told her it's funny, and she said, okay, well, if I can carry the humor, I could think of worse things to carry in a film. So if I'm the one who carries the humor, then I can live with that. So. One thing is, you know, making it in Israel, a lot of people say, God, you're American. I mean, to have all that Super 8 and all those photographs, it's such an American, you know, wealth. You know, it's baby boomers, they reinvented themselves. They were the bold and the beautiful. They could sort of be who they wanted to. I mean, they're of an era where, and they were artists. So some of their friends, that was their art, you know, and that it was always around. But they were fashioning themselves, and yeah, it's an incredible treasure. I was in film school, and I said, well, okay, I'm in the business of storytelling now, so I have a good story, and, you know, I have access, and I told him that I was going to make a portrait of him as the man who invented himself. That was my line. He totally stole my line, and which he does, generally. He loved the idea. And I think he knew it was going to be an unwritten contract. It was a compensation package. You know, the sacrificial lamb thing, I think he had that in mind all along.
Please help me thank Rachel for flying all the way across the world to share our amazing film with us. Thank you.